The crystal chandelier swayed as boots thundered up the marble staircase. Eleanor Hartley pressed her back against the mahogany door of her study, her silk blouse damp with cold sweat, her breath coming in sharp, broken gasps. Outside, voices barked orders, cold, efficient, final. They weren't here to ask questions. They were here to erase her. 48 hours ago, she'd stood on the cover of Forbes. Tonight, she was a fugitive in her own home. Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing amazing today, wherever you are in the world. Drop your location in the comments. I love hearing from you. And listen, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? This story is about to take you on a ride you won't see coming. Hit that subscribe button right now because you do not want to miss what happens next. Trust me. Now, back to Eleanor's nightmare. The doorknob twisted. Eleanor's heart slammed against her ribs. Her hand hovered over her phone. 911 was useless now. The police were part of this. The board had made sure of that when they'd leaked the evidence to every news outlet in the city, doctored financial statements showing she'd embezzled $847 million from Hartley Global Industries. Her own company, her grandfather's legacy. It was a masterpiece of lies, and the world had swallowed every word. Ms. Hartley, the voice on the other side was smooth as poison. Open the door. We just want to talk. Liars. She'd seen the way they moved through the security cameras before someone cut the feeds. These weren't investigators. Their hands stayed too close to their jackets. Their eyes swept corners like trained killers, not accountants. The door shuddered under a heavy impact. Eleanor stumbled backward, her heel catching on the Persian rug. Her grandfather's desk loomed behind her, the one place she'd felt safe her entire life. Now it was just expensive wood between her and whatever came next. Another impact. The frame splintered. Then, footsteps. Different ones. Running. Stop. The door burst open, but it wasn't the men in suits who came through first. It was Arthur Ripley, her butler. 71 years old, slight build, wire-rimmed glasses, and hands that trembled when he poured tea. He stood in the doorway like he'd been carved from stone, his arms spread wide. His body a human shield between Eleanor and the three men with guns half drawn from their holsters. You can't touch her, Arthur said, his voice steady despite the terror Eleanor could see in the tight corners of his eyes. The lead man, dark suit, scar cutting through his left eyebrow, smile like a blade, laughed. Move, old man. This doesn't concern you. Everything that happens in this house concerns me. Arthur didn't budge. I've served the Hartley family for 22 years. I know every secret, every shadow, every lie. The smile faltered. And I know, Arthur continued, pulling a flash drive from his vest pocket with shaking fingers, exactly who framed her. The room went silent except for Eleanor's ragged breathing. Scarface took a step forward. Whatever you think you know. I know Victoria Chin authorized 17 offshore accounts under shell corporations registered to Eleanor's digital signature. Arthur's voice gained strength, each word a hammer blow. I know Marcus Vance from IT deleted 847 surveillance files from the server logs between November 3rd and November 18th. I know Jennifer Whitmore in accounting created duplicate invoices that funneled money into those same accounts while Eleanor was in Tokyo negotiating the Chun Electronics merger. Eleanor's mind reeled. Victoria, Marcus, Jennifer, her CFO, her head of IT, her senior accountant, the people she'd trusted with everything. And I know, Arthur said, his hand steady now as he held up the flash drive, that all of you work for David Kane. The second man moved, his hand going to his weapon. Arthur was faster than he looked. He hurled the flash drive, not at the men, but through the open door behind them, into the hallway where it skittered across marble and disappeared down the main staircase into the foyer below. That's a copy, Arthur said quietly. The original is already with someone who'll know what to do with it. You kill us, it goes public in 6 hours. You kill her, you confirm everything on that drive. And David Kane burns with everyone who helped him. Scarface's jaw worked. His eyes flicked to his companions, then back to Arthur. You're bluffing. Try me. The air crackled with violence, barely restrained. Eleanor couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Arthur, sweet, gentle Arthur who'd brought her hot chocolate when she had nightmares as a child, stood between her and execution like he'd been trained for it his whole life. Scarface's phone buzzed. He answered it without breaking eye contact with Arthur. Listened. His expression went flat. Understood. He ended the call. We're leaving. Smart man, Arthur said. But this isn't over. Scarface's smile returned, colder now. Kane doesn't forget. And he doesn't forgive. Then we'll see him in court. The three men backed out slowly, weapons never quite holstering until they disappeared into the hallway. Their footsteps echoed through the mansion, then faded. The front door slammed. Engines roared to life outside. Eleanor's legs gave out. She collapsed into her grandfather's chair, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Arthur, what? How did you? Arthur turned to her, and she barely recognized him. The gentle Butler was gone. In his place stood someone harder. Someone who'd seen things. Done things. Your grandfather taught me more than how to serve tea, Ms. Eleanor, he said softly. He taught me how to protect what matters. And you matter more than anything. The flash drive, was it real? The evidence. Arthur's smile was grim. Every word. I've been watching them for 3 months. I knew something was wrong when Victoria started staying late every Thursday, the same night the offshore transfers happened. I knew when Marcus suddenly could afford a Tesla on his salary. I knew when Jennifer stopped looking you in the eye. Why didn't you tell me? Because I needed proof. And because... He hesitated. I needed to know how high this went. Now I do. David Kane wants your company, Eleanor. He's wanted it since the board rejected his hostile takeover bid last year. This was his revenge. Frame you, destroy your reputation, force a sale when the stock crashes. But you stopped them. For tonight. Arthur's expression darkened. But they'll come back. Kane has the board. He has the media. He has people in the police department and the DA's office. That's why those men left. He called them off. He's regrouping. Eleanor forced herself to breathe. To think. So what do we do? Arthur pulled out his phone. We fight back. Starting with someone who owes your grandfather a debt he can never repay. He dialed. Someone answered on the first ring. Mr. Cross. Arthur said, his voice carrying the weight of 22 years of secrets. It's time to collect. What has Arthur just set in motion? Who is Mr. Cross, and what debt could possibly save Eleanor from the most powerful man in the city? The safe house smelled like old leather and expensive cigars. Eleanor sat on a burgundy sofa that had probably cost more than most people's cars, but she couldn't stop shaking. The penthouse overlooked the city, her city, the one that now wanted her destroyed, and all she could see were the news tickers on the buildings below flashing her name alongside words like embezzlement and fraud. Arthur emerged from the kitchen with tea. Earl Grey. Extra honey. The same way he'd made it since she was 7 years old and her parents died in that helicopter crash. Drink, he said gently, the hardness from earlier softening into something familiar. You're in shock. Eleanor's hands wrapped around the cup, absorbing its warmth. 22 years, Arthur. You've been with me 22 years, and I never knew you could. That you were. Your grandfather's insurance policy. Arthur settled into the chair across from her, suddenly looking every one of his 71 years. When your parents died, he made me promise. If anything happened to him, if anyone ever came for you, I would keep you safe. No matter what it cost. By becoming James Bond. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Nothing so glamorous. Your grandfather had enemies, Eleanor. Men who envied his success. Men who wanted what he built. He taught me to watch. To listen. To remember everything. His eyes met hers. And to know when the wolves were circling. Eleanor set down the tea before she dropped it. Victoria. I hired her myself 5 years ago. She was brilliant. Harvard MBA. She tripled our quarterly profits. She was also $3.2 million in debt from a gambling problem your board never knew about. Arthur pulled out a tablet, his fingers moving across the screen with surprising dexterity. David Kane found out. Paid off her debts. Owned her completely. The betrayal hit fresh. Victoria had been more than her CFO. They'd been friends. Late nights planning strategies. Celebrating victories with champagne. Victoria had been at Eleanor's side when they'd opened their children's hospital wing in Manila last year. All of it. A lie. And Marcus? Jennifer. Marcus has a sister with leukemia. Experimental treatment in Switzerland. $250,000. Kane paid for it. Arthur scrolled through files, his expression grim. Jennifer has a son who got arrested for vehicular manslaughter 2 years ago. The case disappeared. Kane made the witnesses vanish. Eleanor felt sick. He bought them all. He bought everyone he needed. Arthur looked up. Your board has 6 members besides you. Kane owns 4 of them outright. The other 2, Robert Chun and Patricia Vance, they're terrified. Kane made sure they knew what happened to the last person who stood against him. What happened? 3-car pileup on the interstate. Brake failure. His wife and daughter were in the car behind him. Arthur's voice went flat. They watched him die. The room tilted. Eleanor gripped the sofa's arm. We're fighting a monster. Yes. Arthur closed the tablet. But monsters can bleed. And this one's about to find out he underestimated the help. The penthouse door opened. Eleanor's hand went to the letter opener on the side table. Pathetic weapon, but it was something, then froze. The man who entered moved like smoke. 6'3", maybe 45, with silver threading through dark hair and eyes that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. His suit probably cost $10,000, but he wore it like armor, not fashion. Miss Hartley. His voice was gravel and whiskey. Damian Cross. I'm very sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. Arthur stood, and something passed between the 2 men. Respect, history, something deeper than words. Eleanor, Arthur said carefully, Mr. Cross was your grandfather's associate. They built Hartley Global together, though his name never appeared on any documents. Silent partner, Cross said, moving to the window. Your grandfather saved my life in Singapore, 1987. Pulled me out of a situation that should have killed me. I told him I owed him everything. He said he'd collect someday. He turned, and Eleanor saw the predator beneath the polish. Today's that day. Eleanor found her voice. What did you do? In Singapore. Things that keep me awake at night. Cross's smile held no warmth. Things that taught me how men like David Kane operate. He thinks he's untouchable because he owns the board, the media, the DA. But he's forgotten something crucial. What? Power isn't just about who you own. Cross pulled out his phone, showing her a screen full of contact names. It's about who owes you. And I've spent 38 years collecting debts. Arthur cleared his throat. Mr. Cross has agreed to help us fight back. But Eleanor, you need to understand what that means. Kane won't just destroy your reputation. He'll come after everything. Your friends, your assets, anyone who stands with you. I don't have anyone left to lose. Eleanor said bitterly. You have me. Arthur's voice was steel. And that's not nothing. You have both of us, Cross added. Plus a federal judge who owes me a favor, a journalist at the Times who's been waiting to expose Kane for years, and a forensic accountant who can trace money through 7 layers of shell corporations before breakfast. Eleanor stood, her legs steadier now. The shock was burning away, replaced by something harder. Anger. What do we do first? Cross smiled, and this time it reached his eyes. We do what Kane least expects. We go on offense. He tapped his phone. The penthouse's television flickered to life, showing a familiar face. Robert Chun, the one board member Kane didn't own. He was speaking at a press conference, his voice shaking but determined. I'm calling for an emergency board meeting to review the evidence against Eleanor Hartley. I believe she deserves a fair hearing before we destroy a woman who's dedicated her life to this company. Eleanor's breath caught. Robert's going to get himself killed. Not if we move fast, Cross said. We have 72 hours before that meeting. 3 days to gather enough evidence to prove Kane orchestrated everything. 3 days to flip one more board member to our side. 3 days to save your company. And if we can't, Cross's expression went dark. Then Kane wins. He takes Hartley Global, sells it for parts, and walks away with $8 billion and your family's legacy in ashes. Arthur moved to Eleanor's side. The question is, are you ready to fight? Really fight? Because once we start this, there's no going back. Kane will come at us with everything. Eleanor thought of her grandfather. The man who'd built an empire from nothing. The man who'd raised her when her parents died. The man who'd taught her that Hartleys don't run. She met Arthur's eyes, then Cross's. Then let's make sure we hit first. The emergency board meeting was set for Friday at 9 a.m. It was now Tuesday at midnight, and Eleanor was breaking into her own company headquarters. This is insane, she whispered, pressed against the cold glass of the 42nd floor. Below, the city glittered like scattered diamonds, indifferent to her desperation. This is necessary. The voice in her earpiece belonged to Cross. He was coordinating from a van 2 blocks away, watching security feeds he'd hacked with ease that terrified her. Arthur's status? Arthur's voice crackled through. He was 3 floors below, his slight frame somehow navigating air ducts like he'd done this 1,000 times. Maybe he had. Approaching the server room. 2 guards on rotation. I'll need 4 minutes. You have 3, Cross said. Their shift change happens at 12:47. If you're not out by then. I know the stakes. Eleanor's hands trembled as she worked the glass cutter against the window. Cross had walked her through this twice, but theory and 42 stories of empty air were very different things. One mistake, and she'd paint the sidewalk below. The glass separated with a whisper. Cold November wind rushed in, stealing her breath. I'm in, she said. Good girl. Straight to Victoria's office. You have 12 minutes before the patrol circles back. Eleanor slipped through the window into the executive corridor she'd walked 1,000 times. Now it felt alien, hostile. Every shadow held threat. The portraits of her grandfather lining the walls seemed to judge her. Look what you've let them do to everything I built. Victoria's office was exactly as Eleanor remembered. Minimalist. Pristine. A Crystal Award for Executive of the Year caught moonlight on the shelf. Eleanor had given her that award 8 months ago. Focus. She moved to the desk, pulling out the portable drive Cross had given her. I'm at her computer. Password override activating. Cross's fingers flew across keys Eleanor couldn't see. And you're in. Look for anything labeled Chun Holdings or Pacific Ventures. Those are 2 of Kane's shell corporations. Eleanor's fingers moved across the keyboard, searching, her heart hammering. Victoria's files were meticulous. Too meticulous. Everything organized, labeled, perfect. Except one folder. Buried 6 layers deep, titled personal_backup_not_delete. I've got something. She opened it. Her breath stopped. Emails. Dozens of them. Victoria to an encrypted account, detailing every move Eleanor made. Every meeting. Every decision. Every vulnerability. She's planning to expand into South America. If we can tank the Brazilian deal, she'll lose board confidence. Eleanor trusts me completely. She has no idea what's coming. Kane promises the CFO position after the takeover. I want it in writing. Eleanor's vision blurred with rage and grief. She sold me out for a promotion. Copy everything. Cross ordered. Wait. Arthur, talk to me. Static. Arthur. Eleanor's voice pitched up. Arthur. More static then. I'm here. I'm fine. But we have a problem. Define problem. The server room has been stripped. The backup drives are gone. All of them. Someone cleaned house yesterday. Eleanor's stomach dropped. Kane knew we were coming. No. Cross's voice went cold. Someone told him we were coming. Someone close. A sound behind her. Soft. Deliberate. Eleanor spun, and her world shattered. David Kane stood in the doorway. 60 years old, silver hair, suit that cost more than some houses, and a smile that could sell ice to Antarctica. Behind him, 2 of his men, not the ones from the mansion, but cut from the same cloth. Professional. Lethal. Hello, Eleanor. Kane's voice was warm molasses over broken glass. I was hoping you'd visit. Saves me the trouble of hunting you down. Eleanor's hand moved toward her phone. I wouldn't. Kane nodded to his men. One of them held up a tablet showing a live feed. Arthur, surrounded by 6 armed security guards in the server room below. Hands raised. Trapped. You have a choice, Kane said, stepping into the office like he owned it. He would, soon enough. Surrender now, give a public confession, sign over your shares, and Arthur lives. He gets a nice pension and retires to Florida or wherever old butlers go to die. And if I refuse? Kane's smile widened. Then he becomes another tragic casualty of your criminal enterprise. A loyal servant murdered by the desperate heiress he tried to stop. Very Shakespearean. Eleanor's mind raced. The portable drive in her pocket held evidence, but not enough. Victoria's emails proved conspiracy, but not Kane's direct involvement. Without the server backups, without hard proof linking Kane to the offshore accounts. Tick-tock, Eleanor. Kane checked his Rolex. I have a dinner reservation at 1. I'd hate to be late. Then, the window exploded. Not shattered. Exploded. Safety glass erupted inward as something crashed through, and suddenly there was a body between Eleanor and Kane's men. Someone tall, fast, moving with liquid precision. The first guard went down with a broken wrist before he could draw his weapon. The second managed to pull his gun, but a kick sent it spinning across the floor. Eleanor's rescuer straightened, breathing hard, and she finally saw his face. Mid-30s. Sharp jawline. dark eyes that burned with controlled fury, and a company security badge that read, Nathan McLean, Head of Corporate Security. Ms. Hartley. His voice was rough, urgent. I need you to trust me for about 30 seconds. Kane's composure cracked. McLean? I'm paying you 6 figures to protect my interests. You're paying me to protect this company. Nathan's eyes never left Eleanor's. Which means protecting her. From you. He grabbed Eleanor's hand. His palm was calloused, warm, alive. The window. Now. That's 42 floors. I know. I climbed up them. He pulled her toward the shattered window, where she could now see climbing ropes anchored to the roof above, swaying in the wind. You're insane. Probably. Nathan's smile was wild, reckless, and somehow steadied her racing heart. But I've been investigating Kane for 8 months. I know what he did. I know what he's planning. And I know. He pulled out a second portable drive, where he hid the real evidence. Behind them, Kane screamed orders. More footsteps thundered in the corridor. Nathan's hand tightened on hers. Do you trust me? Eleanor looked into his eyes and saw something she hadn't seen in days. Truth. Loyalty. Something else she couldn't name but felt in her bones. I don't even know you. Then let's fix that. He grabbed the rope. Hold on tight. They jumped into 42 stories of nothing, and Eleanor's scream tore into the night as the city rushed up to meet them. The rope burned Eleanor's palms as they descended in controlled drops. Nathan's body pressed against hers, guiding every movement. His breath was steady against her ear. 3 more floors, you're doing great, while hers came in panicked gasps. They hit the 39th floor balcony hard. Eleanor's knees buckled, but Nathan caught her, his arms iron bands around her waist. Arthur, she gasped. They have Arthur. Cross is extracting him. Different exit. We planned for this. Nathan pulled her toward a maintenance door he'd already jimmied open. Kane's men will flood the stairwells. We have 90 seconds. Who are you? Someone who's been waiting 3 years for this moment. He pulled her into the stairwell, moving down instead of up. Wrong direction. Toward Kane's men, not away. My sister worked in your accounting department. Jennifer McLean. Eleanor's blood froze. Jennifer? But she's one of the people who framed you. I know. Nathan's jaw was granite. King got to her 2 years ago. Threatened her son, my nephew. Said he'd make him disappear if she didn't cooperate. She had no choice. They hit the 35th floor, and Nathan pulled her into another corridor. This one under renovation. Plastic sheeting hung like ghosts. The smell of fresh paint made Eleanor's eyes water. Your sister destroyed me to save her son? My sister is terrified. Nathan's voice cracked. But she kept records. Everything Kane made her do, she documented. Insurance, she called it. She gave them to me 3 months ago and begged me to find a way out. He stopped at a utility closet, pulled out a backpack hidden behind paint cans. Inside, laptops, hard drives, documents. This is everything. Every falsified invoice Jennifer created. Every offshore account. Every communication with Kane's people. Nathan's eyes met hers, and she saw the weight he'd been carrying. Enough to bury him, but also enough to send Jennifer to prison. Eleanor understood then. You can't use it without destroying your sister. That was true yesterday. Nathan pulled out his phone, showing her a video timestamp from 2 hours ago. A woman, Jennifer McLean. Eleanor recognized her now, sitting in what looked like a lawyer's office. Tonight, Jennifer turned herself into the FBI. Full confession. Witness protection in exchange for testimony. The screen showed Jennifer's face, tears streaming, but her voice was steady. My name is Jennifer McLean. I helped David Kane frame Eleanor Hartley for crimes he committed. I'm here to make it right. Eleanor's throat tightened. She gave up everything. She gave up Kane's protection, which means he'll come for her. And for me. Nathan's hand found hers again, and this time Eleanor didn't pull away. His touch anchored her. We have maybe 6 hours before Kane realizes what happened. 6 hours to get this evidence to the right people and get Jennifer's son to safety. Where is he? With Cross. Safe house in Connecticut. Nathan shouldered the backpack. But we need to move. Kane's hired a specialist. What kind of specialist? The ceiling exploded. Eleanor hit the ground, Nathan's body covering hers as plaster rained down. Through the dust, a figure descended on a wire. Female, late 20s, moving with terrifying grace. She landed in a crouch, blonde hair pulled back, eyes like chips of ice. In her hand, not a gun, something worse, A syringe. Nathan McLean. Her accent was Eastern European, precise. Mr. Kane sends his regards. Nathan rolled, pulling Eleanor with him behind a stack of drywall. Katrina Volkov. Russian FSB before she went private. Eleanor, when I say run, I'm not leaving you. You have to. The evidence. Katrina moved. Impossibly fast. The drywall exploded in a kick that would have caved Nathan's skull if he hadn't dodged. Her follow-up strike caught his ribs, and Eleanor heard the crack. Nathan grunted, spun, countered with an elbow that Katrina deflected easily. They danced through the construction zone. Nathan trained, skilled, but outmatched. Katrina was art in motion. Every strike calculated. Every movement efficient. The syringe. Nathan gasped, blocking a kick aimed at his throat. Sodium thiopental. Truth serum. Kane wants to know everything before he kills us. Eleanor's eyes darted around the space. Paint cans. Drop cloths. A nail gun connected to a compressor, forgotten by workers. She grabbed it. Hey. Katrina's head turned. Fatal mistake. Nathan's punch connected with her jaw, staggering her back. Eleanor pulled the trigger. The nail missed. Hit the wall 6 inches from Katrina's head. But the compressor shrieked. The noise in the enclosed space was deafening. Katrina's hands went to her ears, trained reflex, and Nathan swept her legs. She went down hard. Nathan grabbed the syringe she dropped, jabbed it into her thigh. Sleep tight. Katrina's eyes rolled back. She collapsed. Nathan slumped against the wall, holding his ribs. You missed. I've never shot a nail gun before. Eleanor's hands shook. I could have killed you, but you didn't freeze. Nathan's smile was pained, but genuine. You acted. That's rare. He tried to stand, gasped, sat back down. Your ribs. Broken. Maybe 2. He pulled out his phone, texted someone with trembling fingers. Cross is sending extraction. 5 minutes. We just have to. Footsteps. Multiple. Heavy boots on stairs below and above. Nathan's expression went dark. Kane sent backup. Can you move? Not fast enough. He pressed the backpack into her hands. Take it. Go. Cross will find you. I'm not leaving you. Eleanor. I said no. She surprised herself with her vehemence. This man. This stranger who'd climbed 42 stories, who'd fought an assassin, who'd sacrificed everything to help her. She wasn't abandoning him. We go together or not at all. Something shifted in Nathan's eyes. Surprise. Respect. Something warmer that made Eleanor's pulse quicken despite the terror. You're stubborn. I'm a Hartley. The footsteps grew louder. Nathan grabbed her hand, wincing. Then we make a stand. Together. Eleanor helped him to his feet, his weight heavy against her side. The backpack dug into her shoulders. The nail gun felt inadequate in her other hand. But as Kane's men emerged from both stairwells, weapons drawn, Eleanor felt something she hadn't felt in days. Not alone. Nathan's hand tightened on hers. Whatever happens, the windows exploded inward. All of them. Simultaneously. And through the shattered glass, rappelling on lines, came a team dressed in black tactical gear. The lead figure hit the ground, removed his helmet. Arthur. With a rifle. And murder in his eyes. Nobody, he said quietly, threatens my family. Behind him, Cross's people opened fire. Arthur's secret past is about to become very relevant. And Eleanor is starting to feel something for Nathan that could either save them or get them killed. But Kane's not done yet. The gunfight lasted 47 seconds. Arthur moved through Kane's men like a ghost from a war no one knew he'd fought. Each shot precise. Each movement economical. Cross's team swept the floor with professional efficiency that made Eleanor's head spin. When the smoke cleared, Kane's men were zip-tied and unconscious. Not dead. Arthur had been careful about that, but they wouldn't wake up anytime soon. Nathan slumped against Eleanor, his breathing shallow. Arthur, when did you become Rambo? 1987, Singapore. Arthur lowered his rifle, and suddenly he was just the butler again. Gentle eyes, trembling hands. But Eleanor would never see him the same way. Your grandfather didn't just save Cross's life that day, Nathan. He saved mine too. We were both CIA assets. Deep cover. Things went sideways. Eleanor's world tilted. You were CIA? Was. Arthur moved to Nathan, examining his ribs with practiced efficiency. Too broken. You'll live, but you need medical attention. He pulled out a syringe, different from Katrina's, still unconscious in the corner. What is that? Painkiller. Military grade. It'll get you mobile for a few hours. Arthur injected Nathan before he could protest. After that, you'll crash hard. We need to be somewhere safe when that happens. Cross appeared from the stairwell, phone pressed to his ear. His expression was granite. We have a bigger problem. Jennifer never made it to the FBI. Nathan's head snapped up, the painkiller already working. What? Her convoy was ambushed 20 minutes ago. 6 federal agents dead. Jennifer's gone. Cross's voice was ice. Kane has her. No. Nathan tried to stand, nearly fell. Eleanor caught him, his weight solid against her. He'll kill her. He'll trade her. Cross showed them his phone. A message from an unknown number. Jennifer McClain for Eleanor Hartley. Brooklyn Navy Yard. 3 a.m. Come alone or she dies. 2 hours from now. Eleanor's stomach dropped. It's a trap. Obviously. Cross pocketed the phone. Which is why we're going to spring it. You can't ask Eleanor to, Nathan started. I'm going. Eleanor's voice cut through the room. Everyone turned. Jennifer turned herself in because of me. Because she wanted to save me. I won't let her die for that. Eleanor. Arthur began. No. She straightened, feeling something crystallize inside her. I've been running for 3 days. Hiding. Letting everyone else fight my battles. My grandfather built an empire by facing his enemies head-on. It's time I remembered whose blood runs in my veins. Nathan's eyes searched hers. You could die. Then I die fighting. She held his gaze. But I won't die a coward. Something passed between them. Recognition, respect, and that unnamed heat that had been building since he'd crashed through her window. His hand found hers, squeezed. Then we fight together. The Brooklyn Navy Yard at 3 a.m. was a graveyard of ships and broken dreams. Rusted cranes loomed like skeletal giants. Abandoned warehouses hunched against the East River wind. Eleanor walked alone down Pier 7, as instructed. The backpack with all the evidence was slung over her shoulder. Behind her, somewhere in the shadows, Cross's team waited. Arthur was positioned with a sniper rifle on a warehouse roof. Nathan, against everyone's protests, was mobile and armed, the military painkiller buying him borrowed time. But Eleanor felt utterly, terribly alone. A spotlight blazed to life, blinding her. Miss Hartley, Kane's voice echoed across the pier. So glad you could make it. Her eyes adjusted. Kane stood 50 feet away, flanked by a dozen armed men. Between them, Jennifer McClain, bound to a chair, face bruised, terrified but alive. Let her go, Eleanor called. You have me. That's what you wanted. What I want, Kane said, walking forward, is to understand how you made me underestimate you so completely. He stopped 10 feet away. Up close, his smile was genuine. Admiring, even. 23 years I've been building toward this. Your grandfather refused to sell to me. Called me a vulture. A parasite feeding on other people's success. Kane's voice hardened. So I waited. Waited for him to die. Waited for you to take over. Waited for the perfect moment to take everything he built and burn it to ash. Why? The word ripped from Eleanor's throat. What did we ever do to you? Your grandfather destroyed my father. Kane's mask slipped, revealing raw hatred underneath. 1987, Singapore. My father worked for Chun Electronics. He discovered your grandfather and his CIA friends were using the company as a front for intelligence operations. He threatened to expose them. Eleanor's blood chilled. Arthur. Cross. Singapore. They killed him. Kane's voice dropped to a whisper. Made it look like suicide. Discredited him. Left my family with nothing. I was 15 years old, Eleanor. I watched my mother drink herself to death because she couldn't live with the shame. So this whole thing, framing me, destroying my company, it's revenge? It's justice. Kane pulled out a gun. And now it ends. Give me the backpack. All the evidence. Every copy. Or Jennifer dies. Then Nathan. Then Arthur. Then everyone you've ever cared about. Eleanor's hand tightened on the backpack strap. And if I give it to you, then you get to live. Disgraced, destroyed, but alive. You'll spend the rest of your life knowing you failed your grandfather's legacy. Kane's smile returned. For me, that's sweeter than your death. Eleanor looked at Jennifer, terrified, crying, silently mouthing I'm sorry. Looked at the shadows where Nathan waited, broken ribs, and borrowed time. Looked at the warehouse where 71-year-old Arthur crouched with a rifle, ready to die protecting her. She thought of her grandfather. The man who'd taught her that Hartleys don't surrender. And she made her choice. You're right about one thing, Eleanor said, pulling off the backpack. Your father died in Singapore because of my grandfather. She threw the backpack. It landed at Kane's feet. But you're wrong about why. Kane bent to grab it. His men relaxed. Fatal mistake. Eleanor pulled out her phone, pressed send on a pre-composed message. Your father wasn't a whistleblower, David. He was a traitor. He sold intelligence to the Russians that got 12 CIA assets killed. My grandfather didn't murder him. The pier exploded with light. Helicopters. Federal agents rappelling down. Cross's team emerging from the shadows, weapons drawn. And leading them, a woman in an FBI jacket, very much alive. Jennifer. The real Jennifer. Eleanor smiled at Kane's shock. He executed him legally. After a military tribunal. It's all in the CIA files that were declassified 6 months ago. The woman in the chair, the fake Jennifer, stood up, removing her wig. Another federal agent. Kane's face went white. This was a trap. Cross emerged from the darkness. One we've been setting since the moment Eleanor walked into that safe house. Every move you made, we recorded. Every threat you issued, we documented. Every crime you confessed just now. He pointed to Eleanor's phone, still recording. All admissible. FBI agents swarmed Kane's men. But Kane's eyes stayed locked on Eleanor. You lied. About surrendering. About being broken. I learned from the best. Eleanor's voice was steel. My grandfather taught me something else, David. Hartleys don't just refuse to surrender. Nathan appeared beside her, arm wrapped around his ribs, grinning through the pain. We fight dirty. The FBI took Kane away in handcuffs, but his smile never wavered. That should have been Eleanor's first warning. This isn't over, he'd said as they loaded him into the van. You have no idea what you've unleashed. Nathan had dismissed it as posturing. Cross had called it the desperate words of a defeated man. But Arthur had gone very quiet. They returned to the penthouse, safe house, as dawn broke over the city. Eleanor should have felt victorious. Instead, dread coiled in her stomach like a living thing. We did it. Nathan collapsed onto the sofa, the painkiller wearing off, agony etching lines around his eyes. Kane's finished. The evidence is with the FBI. Jennifer's safe. It's over. It's not over. Arthur stood at the window, his reflection ghost-like in the glass. Kane was too calm, too confident. Cross poured whiskey, his hands steady but his expression troubled. Arthur's right. I've known men like Kane. They don't smile when they've lost. They smile when they're about to win. Eleanor's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered, ice flooding her veins. Miss Hartley. The voice was female, cultured, amused. My name is Miranda Volkov. You met my daughter last night. Katrina. The assassin. I don't. Before you hang up, you should know that David Kane isn't my client. He never was. Miranda's laugh was silk over razors. He was the distraction. The room went silent. 3 years ago, someone hired me to destroy Hartley Global Industries. They paid me $50 million and gave me one instruction. Make it look like David Kane was responsible. Make everyone, including Kane himself, believe he was the architect. Eleanor's hand trembled. Who hired you? Someone who's been in your inner circle from the beginning. Someone who knew every move you'd make, every person you'd trust, every weakness you'd reveal. Miranda paused. They're in the room with you right now. The call ended. Eleanor looked at the 3 men she'd trusted with her life. Arthur, Cross, Nathan. One of them was the real enemy. Eleanor. Nathan started to stand, winced, sat back down. Don't. Her voice cracked. Everyone stay exactly where you are. This is a mind game, Cross said calmly. Miranda Volkov is a psychological warfare specialist. She's trying to divide us when we're strongest together. Is she? Eleanor backed toward the door. Because everything she said makes sense. Kane had access to my company, but not to my personal life. Not to my routines. Not to, she looked at Arthur. Not to the inside of this penthouse. How did Kane's men know where to find us that first night? Arthur's face drained of color. You think I don't know what to think. Eleanor's composure shattered. You're CIA. You've kept secrets for 40 years. You know how to lie, how to manipulate, how to kill. To protect you. Arthur's voice broke. Everything I've done has been to protect you. Or maybe, Nathan said quietly, too quietly, it was Cross. Everyone turned. Nathan met Cross's eyes. You appeared out of nowhere. Claimed you owed Eleanor's grandfather a debt, but we only have your word on that. You had the resources to orchestrate all of this. The contacts, the skills. He struggled to his feet, swaying. You could have set up Kane as the fall guy while you positioned yourself as the hero. Cross set down his whiskey with deliberate care. And what's my motive, Nathan? Hartley Global is worth $12 billion. With Eleanor destroyed and Kane in prison, the company would be vulnerable to a hostile takeover. Except this time, you'd be the White Knight, the man who saved Eleanor Hartley, the one she'd trust to help restructure, to bring in new board members. Nathan's eyes hardened. Your people. You're reaching, Cross said. Am I? Because I had my own investigator look into you. Damian Cross didn't exist before 1988. No birth certificate. No school records. Nothing. Nathan pulled out his phone with shaking hands. You're a ghost. And ghosts don't usually save people. They haunt them. Arthur moved between Cross and Eleanor. If Nathan's right. He's not. Cross's voice went cold. But I'm starting to wonder about you, Nathan McLean. FBI consultant who just happened to be investigating Kane. Who just happened to have a sister on the inside. Who just happened to climb 42 stories to save Eleanor at exactly the right moment. My sister almost died. Did she? Or was that part of the plan? Create a narrative so convincing that Eleanor would trust you completely. Let you into her life. Into her confidence. Cross smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. Into her heart. Eleanor's breath caught. Nathan's eyes found hers, wounded. You think I used her feelings. I think you're very good at your job. Whatever that job really is. The room crackled with tension. 3 men, each with secrets. Each with the skills to orchestrate everything. Each with access to Eleanor's life. One of them had betrayed her. Eleanor's phone buzzed again. Email. No sender name. Just an attachment. A video file. Her hands shook as she opened it. The footage was grainy, time-stamped 3 years ago. A cafe. 2 people meeting. Her breath stopped. One of them was Miranda Volkov. The other. No. Eleanor whispered. The second person stood, shook Miranda's hand, slid an envelope across the table. The camera angle changed, zoomed in on the face. Arthur. Eleanor. I can explain. Arthur's voice was desperate. But she couldn't hear him over the roaring in her ears. 22 years. 22 years of trust, of loyalty, of love. And he'd sold her out. You hired her. The words felt like broken glass in Eleanor's throat. You destroyed everything. What? Arthur's face crumpled. Because your grandfather ordered me to. The world stopped. What? 3 years ago, your grandfather knew he was dying. Cancer. 6 months left. Arthur's voice shook. He called me to his bedside and told me the truth. Hartley Global was built on blood money. CIA operations. Arms deals. Assassinations. He'd spent 40 years creating something legitimate, but the foundation was rotten. Eleanor couldn't breathe. He wanted it destroyed. Wanted you free of it. So he had me hire Miranda, set up Kane as the villain, orchestrate everything. The plan was for you to lose the company, start fresh somewhere clean. Arthur's eyes filled with tears. But then you fought back. You refused to surrender. You became everything he'd hoped you'd be, and I couldn't. I couldn't finish it. You're lying, Nathan said. I'm not. Arthur pulled out a letter, yellowed with age, sealed with Eleanor's grandfather's signet ring. He wrote this for you, to be delivered after everything was over. He held it out. Eleanor stared at it like it was a serpent. Behind her, the penthouse door exploded inward. Federal agents flooded in, weapons drawn, and at their head, David Kane. Free. Smiling. Eleanor Hartley, you're under arrest for the murder of FBI Special Agent Rebecca Chun. Kane's smile was victory incarnate. She died 1 hour ago. Poisoned by compounds found exclusively in your penthouse laboratory. I don't have a laboratory. You do now? Kane showed her crime scene photos. A hidden room behind the wine cellar. Equipment. Chemicals. And Rebecca Chen's body, still warm. Eleanor's legs gave out. Nathan caught her, but his face had gone white. Cross stepped forward. This is a setup. Is it? Because we also found something else in that lab. Kane pulled out an evidence bag. Inside, a flash drive. Contains proof that Eleanor Hartley has been running an international espionage ring using her company as cover. Just like her grandfather did. Arthur's letter slipped from his fingers. The charges include racketeering, murder, treason, and conspiracy to commit acts of terrorism. Kane's handcuffs clicked around Eleanor's wrists. Cold. Final. And this time, Miss Hartley, there's no escape. No last-minute rescue. No hero to save you. He leaned close, whispered in her ear. Because I didn't just destroy your company. I destroyed the truth itself. No one will ever believe you now. They dragged her toward the door. Eleanor looked back at Nathan, his face anguished, reaching for her, but held back by agents. At Cross, calculating, already planning. At Arthur, the letter lying at his feet like an accusation. And she realized Miranda had been right about one thing. She'd had no idea what she'd unleashed. Eleanor's in federal custody. Her grandfather's legacy might be built on lies. Someone in that room may still be the real traitor. And Kane just played a card no one saw coming. Everything Eleanor thought she knew is falling apart. Can she find the truth before it's too late? The federal holding cell smelled like despair and industrial cleaner. Eleanor sat on the metal bench, still in the clothes she'd worn to the Navy Yard, and watched her life disintegrate through a television mounted behind bulletproof glass. Hartley heiress arrested in connection with FBI agent's murder. Evidence suggests decades-long espionage operation. Grandfather's company allegedly front for international crime syndicate. Every channel, every station. Her face beside words like traitor and murderer and terrorist. Kane had won. Not just the battle, the war, the truth itself. The cell door opened. Eleanor expected her court-appointed lawyer, some overworked public defender who'd plead her out before lunch. Instead, Nathan walked in. His face was pale, his movements careful around his broken ribs, but his eyes burned with something fierce and unbroken. You shouldn't be here, Eleanor said. They'll think you're part of it. I don't care. Nathan sat beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. I'm not leaving you. Nathan, they have evidence. A body. A laboratory I didn't build but somehow exists in my house. Kane has made sure that we'd give up, that you'd break. Nathan's hand found hers. But here's what Kane doesn't know about me. I don't break. And I don't lose. Despite everything, Eleanor felt something crack open in her chest. How did you even get in here? Called in a favor with a federal judge who owes Cross money. She gave me 20 minutes. Nathan pulled out a phone, not his, something more sophisticated. And I'm going to use them. He pulled up a file. Crime scene photos from Eleanor's supposed laboratory. Look at the equipment. Really look. Eleanor forced herself to focus past the horror of Rebecca Chin's body. The machinery. The chemical setup. High-end. Professional. So this gear costs about $2 million. But more importantly, Nathan zoomed in on a piece of equipment. This is a Spectral Tech MT-9000. Only 6 exist in the United States. I know because I researched them last year for a different case. I don't understand. 3 are in government facilities. 2 are in university research labs. And 1, his eyes met hers, is owned by Chun Holdings. The name hit like electricity. Victoria's company connection. Victoria Chun. Robert Chun on your board. Rebecca Chun, the FBI agent. Nathan's fingers flew across the screen. I thought it was coincidence. But what if the Chins are the real players? What if Kane was telling the truth? He wasn't the architect. He was the distraction. Eleanor's mind raced. Robert Chin called for the emergency board meeting. He was the one who seemed to support me. Making you trust him. Making everyone think he was on your side. Nathan pulled up more files. Rebecca Chun was the lead FBI agent on your case. She controlled what evidence got logged. What got lost? She could have planted anything in your house because she had the warrant to search it. But she's dead. Kane showed us her body. Did he? Nathan's expression went dark. Or did he show us what he wanted us to see? Rebecca Chun has an identical twin sister. Rachel Chun. Want to guess what she does for a living? Eleanor's heart hammered. What? She's a mortician. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Stage of death. Plant evidence. Frame Eleanor not just for embezzlement, but for murder and treason. Crimes so heinous that even if she proved her innocence eventually, her reputation would never recover. The Chins have been playing both sides, Eleanor breathed. Using Kane, using Victoria, using all of us. To take down your grandfather's empire and everyone associated with it, including Cross and Arthur. Nathan showed her another file. Singapore, 1987. The operation that went sideways. It wasn't just about stopping a traitor. It was about stopping Chun Electronics from selling weapons technology to hostile nations. Your grandfather shut them down, destroyed their credibility. cost them billions. So this is revenge. Like Cain's, but bigger. Multi-generational revenge. Cain was their weapon. When we took him down, they adapted. Used his arrest to make you look even guiltier. Used Rebecca's death to make the charges stick. Nathan's jaw tightened. And they would have gotten away with it if I hadn't recognized that equipment. Eleanor felt hope flicker for the first time in hours. Can we prove it? Not from inside a cell. But Cross is working on it. And Arthur, Nathan hesitated. Arthur gave me his letter. The one from your grandfather. He pulled out the yellowed envelope, seal broken. I read it, Eleanor. I'm sorry, but we didn't have time to wait. You need to know what it says. Eleanor's hands shook as she took it. The paper was thick, expensive. Her grandfather's handwriting, strong, bold, unmistakable. My dearest Eleanor, if you're reading this, then Arthur has told you the truth about Hartley Global's origins. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to understand why I did what I did. Yes, I ordered Arthur to orchestrate the company's destruction. Not because I wanted to hurt you, but because I wanted to free you. I built an empire on blood and lies. I thought I could wash it clean, make it legitimate, give you something pure. But poison runs deep. The Chins, the Cains, the Volkovs, they're all shadows from my past, and they'll never stop coming for what I built. I wanted you to lose it all so you could start fresh. Build something real. Something yours. But Arthur tells me you're fighting. That you're stronger than I ever was. That you refuse to surrender even when surrender is the merciful choice. Good. Then let me give you what you need to win. In my study, behind the portrait of your grandmother, is a safe. The combination is your mother's birthday. Inside, you'll find evidence of every crime the Chun family has committed over 40 years. Every payoff. Every murder. Every betrayal. I kept it as insurance. Now it's yours. Win, Eleanor. Win and build something better than I ever could. I love you. I always have. Grandfather. Eleanor's vision blurred. He tried to destroy me to save me. He underestimated you. Nathan's hand cupped her face, gentle despite his urgency. We all did. But now we have a way to fight back. Cross is at your house right now, getting into that safe. We'll have evidence within the hour. Cain will stop him. Cain's being investigated by internal affairs. Turns out someone leaked evidence that he bribed federal agents to secure his release. He's suspended pending investigation. Eleanor almost smiled. Cross. Nathan's thumb brushed her cheek, and suddenly Eleanor was aware of how close they were. How his eyes had gone soft. How her heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with terror. Eleanor, I need to tell you something before we run out of time. Nathan, when I climbed those 42 stories, it wasn't just about justice. Or my sister. Or clearing your name. His voice dropped, rough with emotion. It was about you. I've been watching you for 8 months, investigating this case. And somewhere along the way I stopped seeing you as a client and started seeing you as someone worth saving? Eleanor whispered. Someone worth everything. His forehead touched hers. Someone I can't imagine losing. The kiss was inevitable. Desperate. Born of fear and hope, and something neither of them had time to name, but both felt in their bones. When they broke apart, Nathan was smiling through the pain of his ribs. When we get through this, and we will get through this, I'm taking you to dinner. Somewhere expensive. Somewhere you can wear something that isn't covered in plaster dust and federal custody. That's a date. The cell door opened. A federal marshal Eleanor didn't recognize. McLean. Time's up. Nathan stood, squeezed her hand one last time. Cross will have that evidence in 53 minutes. Hold on until then. Can you do that? Eleanor thought of her grandfather. Of Arthur's loyalty. Of Nathan's kiss still burning on her lips. I'm a Hartley, she said. I can do anything. Cross had 47 minutes to break into Eleanor's mansion, crack a safe, and get out before the federal surveillance team completed their shift change. He had Arthur covering the perimeter. He had blueprints. He had 40 years of experience in operations exactly like this. What he didn't have was time for the man pointing a gun at his head. Hello, Damien. Robert Chin stepped from the shadows of Eleanor's study, weapon steady, smile colder than January. I've been waiting for you. Cross didn't move. His hand hovered near his concealed weapon, calculating odds. Arthur was outside. Too far to help. Robert, shouldn't you be at the emergency board meeting? Postponed. Indefinitely. Robert moved closer, and Cross saw the resemblance to his daughters, Victoria, Rebecca, Rachel. The same predatory intelligence. Once Eleanor goes down for murder and treason, there won't need to be a vote. Hartley Global becomes a federal asset, auctioned off for pennies. And Chun Holdings will be first in line to purchase. Generational revenge. How original. Practical. Robert's finger moved to the trigger. Your friend's grandfather destroyed my father's life in Singapore. Killed him, actually. Though the CIA made sure no one ever knew the truth. Just like they covered up 12 other murders committed in the name of national security. Cross's expression didn't change, but his mind raced. Nathan and Eleanor had figured out the Chun connection, but they didn't know how deep it went. So you used Cain as a weapon. Manipulated him into thinking this was his revenge. Cain was useful, angry, motivated, easy to aim and fire. Robert shrugged. When you took him down, we adapted. Rebecca's death was inspired, I thought. Nothing guarantees a conviction like a murdered FBI agent. Except Rebecca's not dead. A detail. My daughters are very talented actresses. And Rachel's skills with mortuary makeup are exceptional. The body your forensic teams examined will pass every test. Robert smiled. Eleanor Hartley will spend the rest of her life in prison. Everyone associated with her will be destroyed. And Chun Holdings will finally claim what my family has been owed for 40 years. You're monologuing, Cross said. That's usually a sign you're about to lose. I'm explaining. There's a difference. Because in 30 seconds, you'll be dead, and I want you to understand exactly how completely we've won. Robert's gun steadied. Any last words? Just two. Cross smiled. He's behind you. Robert laughed. The oldest trick. Arthur's rifle barrel pressed against the base of his skull. Drop it, Robert. Or I paint Eleanor's grandfather's portrait with your brain matter. Robert froze. Arthur, the loyal butler. I wondered when you'd show up. I never left. Arthur's voice was granite. Did you really think Cross would come alone? I've been in this house since you arrived. Watched you disable the security system. Listened to your confession. Recorded every word. He held up a phone with his free hand, still recording. Robert's face went white. You're bluffing. Am I? Arthur's finger tightened on the trigger. Drop the gun. Last warning. The weapon clattered to the floor. Cross moved fast, securing Robert's hands with zip ties, patting him down. Found two more weapons, a phone, and... Well. Cross held up a flash drive. Let me guess. The real financial records? The ones showing Chun Holdings orchestrated everything. Robert said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Arthur lowered his rifle, but his eyes stayed hard. The safe, Cross. We're running out of time. Cross moved to the portrait of Eleanor's grandmother. Elegant woman, kind eyes, oil painting that probably cost a fortune. He swung it aside, revealing the safe beneath. Eleanor's mother's birthday. He'd researched it months ago. July 23rd, 84. The safe clicked open. Inside, files. Dozens of them. Photographs. Ledgers. Documents with CIA letterhead. And a small black book that made Cross's blood run cold. My God, he breathed. Eleanor's grandfather documented everything. Every crime. Every payoff. Every body. He flipped through pages. The Chins have been running weapons, drugs, and human trafficking for 50 years. Singapore was just the tip. They have operations in 14 countries. Connections to terrorist organizations. Government officials on 6 continents. None of that matters if Eleanor's in prison, Arthur said. Can we prove she was framed? Cross pulled out another file. This one recent. Bank records showing Robert Chin funded the offshore accounts used to frame her. Emails between Robert and Victoria coordinating the timing. Text messages with Cain outlining the entire plan. He looked up. This doesn't just clear Eleanor. It destroys the entire Chun organization. Robert laughed. Bitter. Defeated. You're too late. Even if you get that to the FBI, my daughters control the evidence chain. Rebecca will make sure it disappears. Victoria will claim it's fabricated. And Rachel, his smile turned vicious. Rachel is at the federal holding facility right now. Guess who she's visiting? Arthur's face went pale. Eleanor. Cross was already running for the door, phone to his ear. Nathan. Rachel Chun is in the building. Get to Eleanor now. The holding facility was quiet. Too quiet. Eleanor sat alone in her cell, counting the minutes until Cross would call with news. 41 minutes had passed since Nathan left. 12 remained. The door opened. A woman entered. Late 20s, professional suit, federal credentials. Ms. Hartley. I'm Agent Sarah Morrison. I need to ask you some additional questions. Eleanor stood. Something felt wrong. The woman's smile was too tight. Her eyes too cold. Too familiar. You're not Agent Morrison. The woman's smile widened. Very perceptive. Then again, you Hartleys always were good at seeing through disguises. Eventually, she pulled out a syringe. Not truth serum. Something worse. The liquid inside was amber. Final. Rachel Chun. Eleanor breathed. The last Chun standing, after your grandfather destroyed my father and my family's legacy. Rachel moved closer, and Eleanor had nowhere to run. Bulletproof glass behind her. Locked door in front. This is concentrated digoxin. Heart attack inducer. They'll find you dead in your cell. Suicide by despair. So tragic. She lunged. Eleanor dodged, but the cell was too small. Rachel's hand caught her arm, the needle descending. The door exploded inward. Nathan crashed through, moving on instinct and military painkillers, his tackle catching Rachel mid-strike. They went down hard. The syringe skittered across the floor. Rachel was fast. Trained. She had Nathan flipped in seconds, her hands reaching for his throat. Eleanor grabbed the syringe, drove it into Rachel's shoulder. Rachel's eyes went wide. She gasped, clutched at the needle, stumbled backward. How does it feel? Eleanor's voice shook. 40 years of revenge. 40 years of planning. And it ends with you dying on a cell floor because you underestimated the help. Rachel collapsed, convulsing. Nathan scrambled back, pulling Eleanor with him. Federal marshals flooded in, real ones this time, credentials verified by Cross's contact. They secured Rachel, called for medical. Nathan held Eleanor close, both of them shaking. It's over. Cross has the evidence. Robert Chun is in custody. Victoria is being arrested as we speak. The real Rebecca is being detained in Mexico. Kane, singing like a canary now that he knows the Chuns used him. Full cooperation in exchange for a reduced sentence. Nathan's arms tightened. You're free, Eleanor. Really free. Eleanor buried her face in his shoulder and finally let herself cry. Relief. Grief. Victory. It poured out of her in broken sobs while Nathan held her together. Through the cell door, she could see the televisions changing. Breaking news. Eleanor Hartley cleared of all charges. Chun family crime syndicate exposed. Hartley heiress vindicated. The truth. Finally. If you're watching this, drop a comment and let me know what you thought of that twist. Rachel Chun almost got away with it. Almost. Subscribe if you want more stories that keep you on the edge of your seat. Nathan pulled back, cupped her face, and kissed her like they had all the time in the world now. Because they did. 3 months later, Eleanor stood in the Hartley Global boardroom and barely recognized it. The old portraits were gone, replaced with photographs of the company's humanitarian work. The mahogany table remained, but the faces around it were new. Honest. People she'd chosen herself, not inherited from her grandfather's compromised legacy. Arthur stood by the window in his impeccable suit, looking every bit the butler again. But Eleanor would never forget the soldier underneath. The man who'd recorded Robert Chun's confession. The man who'd protected her for 22 years without asking for anything in return. The vote is unanimous, Patricia Vance announced, one of only 2 original board members who'd survived the purge. Eleanor Hartley remains CEO of Hartley Global Industries. Additionally, the board approves the restructuring plan to divest from all holdings connected to the original CIA operations. Applause filled the room. Genuine. Warm. Eleanor smiled, but her mind was elsewhere. On the federal courthouse downtown, where the Chun family trial was entering its final week. On Kane, who testified for 6 hours about his manipulation. On her grandfather's letter, now framed in her office. A reminder of the cost of secrets. The meeting adjourned. Eleanor gathered her notes, preparing for the press conference scheduled for noon. The media had been relentless, but this time, the narrative was hers to control. Ms. Hartley, a voice from the doorway. Nathan leaned against the frame, looking significantly better than the last time she'd seen him in this building. His ribs had healed. The haunted look in his eyes had softened, and he wore a suit that made Eleanor's pulse quicken in ways that had nothing to do with danger. Mr. McLean. She tried for professional, failed completely at the smile that took over her face. I thought you had physical therapy this afternoon. Canceled it. He crossed to her, and the boardroom suddenly felt very small. Very private. Had something more important to do. Oh. He pulled out an envelope. FBI letterhead. Jennifer's officially out of witness protection. The threats against her are over. She wants to meet you. Eleanor's throat tightened. Nathan, I don't know if I can face her. She helped destroy me. She helped save you. Nathan's hand found hers. Without her records, without her confession, we'd never have connected the Chins to everything. She risked her life to make it right. Because you asked her to. Because you inspired her to. Nathan's thumb traced circles on her palm. You fought when everyone said to surrender. You trusted when trust seemed impossible. You showed her what courage looks like. His voice dropped. You showed all of us. The kiss was softer than their first. Less desperate. More promise. Eleanor melted into it, her hands sliding up his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and strong. When they broke apart, Nathan was grinning. So about that dinner I promised you 3 months ago. You mean when we were running for our lives? Seems like a lifetime ago. His expression turned serious. Eleanor, I know we've been taking things slow, making sure what we feel is real and not just adrenaline and trauma bonding. It's real. She said it with certainty. I've known since you climbed 42 stories for me. Actually, I climbed for justice and my sister's freedom. Liar. His laugh was warm. Okay, maybe 70% for you. The other 30 was definitely justice-related. Eleanor pulled him closer. I'll take those odds. The press conference was a circus. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. Eleanor stood at the podium with Arthur on her left, Nathan on her right, and felt anchored for the first time in months. Ms. Hartley, how do you respond to allegations that your grandfather built Hartley Global on criminal activity? Eleanor took a breath. My grandfather made choices that haunt me. He was involved in operations that, while legal under classified government programs, crossed ethical lines I can't defend. But he also spent the last 20 years of his life trying to make amends, trying to build something legitimate from a compromised foundation. She looked directly at the camera. I'm continuing that work. Hartley Global is divesting from all holdings connected to those original operations. We're establishing an independent ethics board. We're creating a victims' compensation fund for anyone harmed by our past actions. And we're committing $2 billion to humanitarian projects over the next 5 years. Some say you're trying to buy forgiveness. I'm trying to earn redemption. Eleanor's voice strengthened. Not for my grandfather. For myself. For everyone who works for this company and believes we can be better than our history. What about David Kane? Do you feel sympathy for him given that he was also a victim of the Chin family? Eleanor paused. She'd thought about Kane a lot these past months. His hatred, his pain, his 40-year quest for revenge that had consumed his entire life. I feel sorry for David Kane, she said finally. He let revenge poison everything good in his life. He became the monster he thought he was fighting. That's not justice. That's tragedy. And the Chin family will face justice. Real justice. Through the legal system, with evidence and testimony and due process. The way it should have been handled 40 years ago. Eleanor's jaw set. This cycle of revenge ends with my generation. I'm making sure of it. That evening, Eleanor sat in her grandfather's study, her study now, and stared at the portrait of her grandmother. Behind it, the empty safe gaped like an old wound finally healed. Arthur brought tea. Earl Grey. Extra honey. You did well today, he said quietly. Your grandfather would be proud. Would he? Eleanor turned the letter over in her hands. He tried to destroy everything to save me. I'm rebuilding it instead. That's not what he wanted. He wanted you free. You chose to be free while still carrying the weight. Arthur's smile was sad. That's harder. Braver. He knew you'd choose the harder path. That's why he left you the evidence to fight with. 22 years, Arthur. You've been protecting me 22 years. Eleanor met his eyes. What will you do now that I don't need protecting anymore? What makes you think you don't need protecting? Arthur's expression turned sly. You're dating an FBI consultant. You've made enemies of half the criminal organizations in the Eastern Hemisphere. And you're a woman with $12 billion trying to change the world. He sipped his own tea. I'd say you need protection more than ever. Eleanor laughed. Really laughed. So you're staying? Where else would I go? You still can't make proper tea. Nathan arrived at 8 with takeout from the Thai place Eleanor loved and a bottle of wine that probably cost more than it should. They ate on the floor of her living room, surrounded by boxes of her grandfather's files that she was still cataloging for the historical record. No secrets. No more shadows. Jennifer wants to meet next week, Nathan said. twirling pad thai around his fork. She's nervous. Thinks you'll hate her. I could never hate her. Eleanor leaned against his shoulder. She saved us all. You saved us all. Nathan set down his food, turned to face her. Eleanor, I need to tell you something. Her heart jumped. That sounds ominous. It's not. I hope it's not. He took her hand. The FBI offered me a permanent position. Director of Corporate Fraud Division. Good salary. Better hours than consulting. Based in New York. Nathan, that's amazing. I turned it down. Eleanor blinked. What? What? Because Hartley Global offered me something better. His smile was crooked. Head of Corporate Security. Which means I'd be working for you. With you. Every day. And I know mixing business with personal relationships is complicated, but I can't imagine being anywhere else. Eleanor's eyes stung. You gave up a director position for me? I gave up a job for a life. Nathan cupped her face. With you. If you'll have me. The kiss was answer enough. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Eleanor whispered, I love you. In case that wasn't clear. It was pretty clear. Nathan's forehead rested against hers. But hearing you say it is better. I love you, she repeated, because she could. Because they'd survived. Because the future stretched out before them, full of possibility instead of fear. 6 months later, Eleanor stood on the stage of the Children's Hospital in Manila, the one her company had built, and watched kids who'd been given second chances play in the garden outside. Nathan's hand found hers. Arthur stood nearby, looking uncomfortable in the tropical heat, but refusing to leave her side. Cross had sent flowers with a note. Your grandfather would be proud. I certainly am. The board had approved 12 new humanitarian projects. The ethics committee was functioning. Hartley Global stock had recovered and then soared as investors rewarded genuine reform. And Eleanor had learned something her grandfather never had. Redemption wasn't about erasing the past. It was about building a future so bright it made the shadows irrelevant. Ready to go home? Nathan asked. Eleanor looked at the children playing. At Arthur's patient smile. At Nathan's hand in hers. I am home, she said. And for the first time in her life, it was true. Thank you so much for joining me on Eleanor and Nathan's journey. If you enjoyed this story of loyalty, betrayal, and second chances, please hit that subscribe button. I've got so many more stories coming your way. Drop a comment below and tell me, what was your favorite twist? Did you guess the Chin family was behind everything? What story should I tell next? Remember, no matter how dark things get, there's always a way to fight back. Always a way to reclaim your truth. And sometimes, the help comes from the most unexpected places. Until next time, stay strong, stay curious, and never, ever surrender. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.